India has millions of skilled artisans, but having a product to sell and being able to sell it online are two very different things. Before building Karigar Samarthan, we went into the field to understand where that gap actually came from. We studied the seller onboarding processes of Amazon, Flipkart, and Meesho, and we conducted field research with 45 artisans and other users across 4 studies. What we found was not simply that existing marketplaces had too many fields. The deeper problem was that these systems assume that a seller can comfortably read, type, navigate forms, and provide the documentation being requested, according to 45 Karagars. These are their biggest barriers to selling online. In our usability work, even Misho, the simplest of the 3 platforms we examined, proved difficult for real users. 10 of 12 participants could not complete its seller registration process. Artisans told us they wanted simpler ways to create listings, and 78.3% of the artisans we surveyed preferred speaking over typing. 92% said that a voice and photo tool for creating listings would be useful. These findings gave us a very specific problem to solve. How can we give artisans a practical way to participate in digital commerce without requiring the literacy, typing, documentation, language, or technology assumptions built into conventional seller platforms? That question became the foundation for everything we built.
Rather than designing features first and looking for a problem afterward, we translated our research findings into design requirements. Since typing was a barrier, the system needed to be voice first. Since language was a barrier, it needed to support Indian languages rather than assuming English. Since users were worried about making mistakes, they needed to be able to hear, confirm, and correct what the system understood. Since describing and categorizing a product for an online marketplace was difficult, the system needed to use a photograph and spoken description to help create the listing. And since some artisans did not have smartphones or stable internet connections at all, smartphone access could not be a prerequisite for participating. Our objectives were therefore to build a voice guided product listing workflow integrated with the NGO's existing WooCommerce marketplace, provide accessibility through audio and confirmation support English, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, and Tamil. Provide a volunteer assisted pathway for artisans who cannot use the app independently and validate the complete commerce pipeline. The project is deliberately seller side. The buyer continues to use the normal online storefront, while Karigar Samarthan provides the accessibility layer on the seller's side. And we did not treat the volunteer pathway as a theoretical backup. We built a lightweight, continuously evolving two-page volunteer system that can be used directly in those camps. A volunteer can capture Karigar's information, photograph products on site, upload product information, and track what has been entered. This lightweight system caches data and uploads to our backend when volunteers have internet, making it suitable for village work. We have already used this system in 2 Karigar camps, and we are continuing to improve it based on requests from the volunteers who actually use it. So our scope became 2 access pathways into the same commerce system. The Karigar operates the app themselves, or a trained volunteer can help them participate through a camp.
We counted the fields, clicks, and screens required by existing digital marketplaces for onboarding and listing a user's first product for sale. Amazon and Flipkart require sellers to navigate relatively complex registration and listing processes. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, of user inputs are required to list just one item. Even a simplified platform, Misho, still relied heavily on literacy, typing, and English navigation skills to complete onboarding. Our audit found that the sheer number of fields required by these platforms creates a potentially high cognitive burden for sellers. The problem with existing systems was, therefore, the interaction model. Instead of asking, how do we make an existing marketplace form simpler? We asked, what if the carrier never had to fill out the form in the first place? That is where the voice first design came from. The research, therefore, did not simply justify our project. It determined its architecture and interaction model. Karigar Samarthan is built around the NGO's existing WooCommerce marketplace. This is a single source of truth for every product, every order, and every Karigar brand. The mobile app is built in Flutter. It connects directly to WooCommerce through an authenticated REST API and provides the voice-first interface used by artisans. Firebase provides phone authentication, Firestore synchronization, image storage, and Crashlytics. It supports the application layer while synchronizing data with the central commerce platform. Cloud Functions validate requests and synchronize Firebase with WooCommerce. The same layer also records prohibited upload attempts to a dedicated flagged listings endpoint before publication. The AI assistant sits between the app and the AI tools. Unlike Gemini or Sarvam, it has conversational access to both Firebase and WooCommerce, allowing artisans to ask about products, orders, prices, and tracking numbers. Gemini converts a product photograph and spoken description into structured marketplace data, including the title, description, category, and pricing suggestions. Sarvam AI provides speech to text to speech, and multilingual translation across the supported Indian languages. The Karigar Camp volunteer entry system is a second pathway into WooCommerce. Volunteers can capture artisan details, upload products, cache data offline, and synchronize everything into the same marketplace when connectivity returns. Architecturally, every pathway converges on the same WooCommerce marketplace. Whether data originates from the Flutter app, Firebase Cloud Functions, the AI assistant, or the volunteer entry system, it ultimately serves one shared commerce platform. The mobile application was developed using Flutter and Dart, with RiverPod for state management and GoRouter for navigation. Our commerce backend is based on WordPress and WooCommerce with MySQL, integrated with Firebase Cloud and Firestore. Firebase phone authentication provides passwordless sign-in. For AI, we use Google Gemini for product understanding and listing generation, while Sarvam AI provides speech-to-text, translation, and text-to-speech. We use GitHub and Firebase Crashlytics for monitoring. But the technology choices were driven by the requirements rather than being the starting point. Flutter allowed us to build the mobile experience we needed. WooCommerce allowed us to work with the existing commerce infrastructure rather than creating a parallel marketplace. And the speech and AI services allowed us to implement the voice first interaction that came directly from our field research.
Now we will demonstrate the system from the perspective of a Kariga. First, onboarding. A Kariga selects their language, enters their basic information and phone number, verifies through OTP, and reaches the home screen. There is no email or password requirement. The core workflow is add product. The Kariga takes photographs of the product and then describes it by speaking rather than filling out a long written form. The system uses the photograph and spoken description to generate the product title, category, and description. The Karigar can listen, review, and correct the information before publishing. Once published, the product is sent to the same WooCommerce storefront that customers use. The system also includes safeguards before a listing reaches that storefront. The AI analyzes product images for prohibited content, including alcohol, firearms, drug paraphernalia, illegal animal parts, and counterfeit goods, such as unauthorized copies of brands like Nike, Chanel, or Gucci. If prohibited content is detected, publishing is blocked. So, AI is not only generating content for the artisan, it is also acting as a safety layer for the marketplace. Next is order management. When a customer purchases a product, the order appears in the Karigar's orders section, including the relevant order information and shipping details. The Karigar can mark the order as shipped and provide the tracking information. The system synchronizes those changes with the marketplace so the customer can receive the appropriate order updates. The Karigar can also interact with the system through the AI assistant. For example, instead of navigating through the marketplace trying to determine how their products are priced, they can simply ask something like, what is a good price for my blue handblock indigo dupatta? The assistant analyzes comparable products currently listed on the platform and can return information such as the observed price range and average price. The assistant can also answer questions about orders and retrieve information such as a shareable link to a published product.
The app also has a sales report feature where carriers can see and share their quarterly and yearly sales. Finally, there is the Carriger Camp Pathway. The volunteer can register the Carriger, photograph products at the camp, enter product information, upload it, and track what has been submitted.
We evaluated the system at three levels: technical functionality, real world deployment, and usability with our intended users. First, technical functionality. Unit testing covered 22 tests, with all 22 passing. Coverage testing achieved 100% on both test modules. We then ran an 8 test patrol integration suite across the application, followed by regression testing. Our moderation testing also successfully blocked prohibited items from being published. Second, real world deployment. Through Google Play internal and closed testing, more than 30 testers downloaded and used the application over approximately 1 month, providing ongoing feedback that led to iterative bug fixes and 6 subsequent updates. The application is now awaiting Google Play approval for public access. Our testing also confirmed that we substantially reduced the interaction required to complete key tasks compared with the marketplaces benchmarked at the beginning of the project. Karigar Samarthan requires approximately 80 to 90% fewer user inputs, while retaining the core functionality needed to create and manage listings. Finally, usability with our intended users. The voice first workflow was well received by actual carriers, who reported substantially lower mental effort than with existing marketplace workflows. This result is important because it tests the actual hypothesis behind our design. So, our results answer two different questions. Did we build the system? Yes, but more importantly, did the system address the problem we set out to solve? Our results indicate that it did. The system is functional, but testing exposed several technical limits. First, external AI dependencies remain a reliability risk. We observed intermittent Gemini API failures during the ad product flow. We added safe failure handling so incomplete AI responses cannot be published. But API availability remains outside our control. Language accuracy was another issue. One Tamil translation of quantity was interpreted as size by a native speaker. We validated the terminology with multiple Tamil speakers and corrected the bundled string in code. Our product taxonomy is also still open ended. The AI currently generates categories rather than selecting from a fixed taxonomy. This can produce duplicate or malformed categories. A controlled category structure will become more important as the dataset grows. The volunteer system exposed 4 implementation defects. Multi-photo uploads were overwriting files. The approval gate was not being triggered. Stale client-side drafts persisted between submissions, and WordPress nonces could expire during long camp sessions. We traced each to its source and fixed all four at the form and data layer. These findings define the next engineering priorities: API resilience, controlled taxonomy, stronger language validation, and robust offline synchronization. Karigar Samarthan began with a research question, not a technology choice. We went into the field and found that the barriers preventing artisans from participating in digital commerce were not simply a lack of marketplaces. They were assumptions about literacy, typing, language, documentation, digital confidence, smartphone ownership, and connectivity. Those findings became our design requirements. The next stage is to scale it responsibly. That includes stronger offline support, additional Indian languages, continued improvement of the volunteer camp system, logistics integration, and eventually integration with India's open network for digital commerce. Our sponsoring NGO, JS Trust, will continue working with a member of our team to expand Karigar Samarthan's operations, both offline and online. Reaching this stage would not have been possible without their continued support, the guidance of our supervisor, Professor Raj Kumar, and the opportunities provided through programs such as Sarvam AI's Startup Initiative and Flutter's Developer Training.
Karigar Samarthan will continue to follow the same process, listening to artisans, identify the barrier, design around it, build it, test it, and improve it. Because the goal is to make digital commerce more inclusive and accessible. Thank you.